genius. He's the reason why I still have this thing. Are we live? Are we live? Okay, I'm going to say yes, we're live. Yay. All right. So, welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. And I'm so excited to be here today. I feel like I haven't been on here in a long time. I got sick. I got the flu really bad. And so that's why I haven't been here for a couple of weeks. And I just had no energy. And now I got my energy back. I was like, yeah, let me take on the world. I'm ready. Well, at least my corner of it, right? Oh my goodness. So it's so good to be here and to see you all. Um, it's interesting, when you're sick like that for a while, you kind of reach this point, you're like, oh my God, am I going to die? Okay, we're being facetious. We're not really going to die. We know we're not really going to die, but you just feel kind of icky. And, there's a little part of you that maybe you like, do I have to live through this? And really, we do, because we don't really want to die. I don't know about you. I still got stuff to do. I got a long list of stuff to do. I'm not ready yet. Not afraid, but I'm not ready. So, but you're sitting there and just like, I want to do stuff. And I just had to rest. And one thing with me is the whole resting thing is really hard. And and so when my body needs to rest, if I don't listen to it, it does something like it makes me sick. And it says, "Ha, I got you. You said you didn't want to rest. I told you to rest. You said you didn't want to rest. I told you to rest. You didn't rest enough. You're going to rest." And oftentimes that's what our body does. Our body talks to us, but most of us don't know how to listen. Or, oh, I'll take an aspirin, or oh, I'll take this pill, or, I can just power through it. One more cup of coffee, whatever it is that, we all have our vice of choice, right? And so, but when you get better again, it's like you've got this whole new lease. It's like I had to rest for 2 weeks. I didn't have a choice. I still did some stuff. I'm me. I still did some stuff, but I had to rest. And now I've got all this energy and I just feel so much better now. Part of this too is I was part of a shamanic healing ceremony. Um, it started for my friend, but got a lot out of it myself. And what I discovered was how many emotions were still stuck inside of me. And if you've been watching a long time, you know some of this stuff. But, it's been 8, 10 years ago. A lot of life happened. Part of that was miscarriage, and the baby was there to blow up my life. It literally was like a lightning bolt to show me all the stuff that wasn't working in my world. It did it very well. So it was a very tumultuous time. And what came out in this ceremony as we were working on it, I just was crying and crying and crying. I couldn't stop. And we were in a sweat lodge. So, okay, how much was sweat? How much was tears? Doesn't really matter. But the point is that these emotions get stuck in our bodies, and that literally makes us sick. I've told you the story about how my asthma got cured and how I was able to cure that grief by purging it all. And I sobbed for 3 hours after that. And so this was a similar type of experience where I just let loose and let all these tears go. And I thought I'd cried. I have cried. I've screamed. I've done it all, right? A lot. But there is so many things that happen. Bam, 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 bam. back then that I couldn't even tell you what I was crying for half the time. Just would like, okay, put on a Hallmark movie and let it cry, let the tears come, right? And I'd crawl in bed and just like, okay, I'm just gonna let go. But there were so many things going on as well that there was a part of me that I felt like if I started to let myself just surrender to the whole thing, that I wasn't going to be able to stop. I'd get in the car, I'd turn the radio on really loud, I'd scream, I'd put on a certain song. I remember there was during COVID, was it? It was Sammy Hagar, I think, or maybe it was Beastie Boys. It's Beastie Boys. We gotta fight for the right to party. I had that going on in the car really loud. I was just sick of all the stuff that was going on, and I'm like, oh no, that's what it was. We're not gonna take it. That's been a big. Now, generally, I'm not a heavy metal person. Who did it? We're not gonna take it. Is it Sammy Hagar? No, Twisted Sister. That's who it is. We're not gonna take it. No, we're not gonna take it. But I'd get in the car and I'd turn that really loud. I don't have the album, but it would come on the radio. I'm like, yes, yes. I'd blast it and I'd scream and I'd scream, I'd scream. And sometimes it was a silent scream. So I don't know if you've ever felt this. You've all seen the picture of the silent scream, and there's some Halloweens where the silent scream was really big. And at least my experience, the silent scream is that you're in so much deep pain. I remember the scene from The Princess Bride where he throws the thing up and Buttercup hears him screaming from miles away. The whole village hears him screaming. That was the scream inside of me, but I didn't know how to let it out because I felt like if I did open up my mouth and allow that voice to be voiced, that it would be like the whole world would hear it. And I didn't even want to subject anybody else to that pain because it would have been so clear in my voice. What's the line in The Princess Bride? Who is that? There's only one person it could be. He says there's only one person it could be. There's only one person that hurts that much, that loves that much, that could hurt that much. There's only one person it could be. They knew. And that's what this was like. Like, if I opened up my mouth and I put vocal cords to this thing, I didn't know if I could stop it. It was so deep. It hit such a depth, a part of me that I didn't even know existed. I didn't know I could hurt that bad. I didn't know that I had that much feeling inside of me, and it scared me because I knew it had to come out, but I'd come out in pieces, chunks I could handle. Okay, I'll go cry for an hour. Cool. I'll get in the car, I'll scream. Here's a song, makes me black. Yes, yes. I can't drive 55. Yes, yes. Slam on the gas. I'm in the middle. That was really fun during COVID. There was nobody on the freeways. You could go 80 miles an hour. It was awesome. Like, there's nobody there. And I just put the radio on loud. I'm like, yeah, let this out. Right? We have different ways of letting it out. Put on a sad movie and just allow the tears to come. But back then, I didn't even know what I was screaming about. There's so many things. Somebody would say, so, Jeanette, you're depressed. Yeah, I am. About what? I said, throw out a dartboard. Pick one. Here's the dartboard. All the little things, right? There's 20 things on the dartboard. Here, pick one. I can't differentiate. I don't know. I don't care. All I knew is I had to get these emotions out. And so that's what I did, little bit by little bit by little bit. And then I go into this shamanic lodge. Holy crap, there's still a lot there. Oh my gosh. Release, release, release. I feel like I lost 20 pounds in that shamanic lodge. Okay, didn't physically, but I did etherically. I did spiritually release a lot of weight. And that's part of what causes physical weight too, is that trauma. Holding on to those feelings, being afraid to let them go, holding them tight in our body. Your body wants to get rid of that. Its job is to purge that. But when you hold on tight to it, you're not allowing the body to do what it's supposed to do. And what is the body's reaction? It gets sick. You know, we all have aches and pains, right? Especially you get to a certain age, we all have aches and pains. But when you have an ache or a pain, it's your body talking to you. It's telling you, hey, this hurts. And the question is, why does this hurt? When I had asthma and I couldn't breathe, I went to the doctors. Oh, take this thing. Or take this pill. I took this pill. I didn't know any better at the time. Okay, cool. I remember there's this little green hexagonal thing. I don't forget what it was called. It was a very pretty green. I like green. But I took that pill. It made me want to go run a marathon. Now, mind you, so this may sound silly, but until you can't breathe, you don't realize how much you need breathing to move. And so when you're not getting air in your lungs, your body's not getting the oxygen it needs, moving becomes very, very difficult. So for me to go from the bed to the bathroom felt like a huge feat in and of itself. Talking, I don't know, 15 feet, maybe? I don't know. Anyway, it wasn't very far. And that felt like the biggest journey. And here's my body going, I gotta go run a race. I gotta go run a race. I gotta go run a race. Like, I can't make it to the toilet. That's a huge feat. How can I go run a race? But that's what one of the pills did to me. Another one gave me a huge bloody nose. That's another story for another day. But I've got history of bloody noses. Now, that one was bad. Ended up in the hospital. So many things went wrong. It's not even funny. But I'm like, there has to be a better way. There's another answer here. I knew there had to be another answer. And when it was explained to me that that's where the grief was hit in my body, and all I had to do was release it. Now, that's not as easily said than done. It's easier said than done, sorry. But he showed me how to release it. And yes, I've done a lot of work on this other stuff. You know, I've done a lot of releasing with it. So I was really surprised to find out that it was still there. Because there's different layers. We're like an onion, you know? So I did that thing with the asthma. I was able to release it. I sobbed for 3 hours. I got a towel. I was like, this isn't it. Like, Kleenex is a joke for this. I wasn't crying. I was sobbing deep in that place, deep inside you that, you know, you only feel it when you're just in the deepest, darkest moments of sorrow. And you don't even know it's there most of the time until you're willing to open up to see just how deep it is. It's a very deep, deep well. And I was willing to let that cry and come out, that I could cry from that space and then I could heal. Yes, Mark.
Well, speaking of which, I was listening to you and I was actually thinking, because while you were going through your situations during the couple of weeks and all along those lines, Dad actually went in to the hospital because he woke up one morning and he was like, I don't feel right. And all along those lines. So a lot of people, they will get those signals and they'll get that and they'll just, brush it off or let it be ignored and all along those lines. But my dad isn't that type of individual. So he actually
Good.
himself to the hospital and actually stayed over for a day or two, and now he seems to be doing good. They had to adjust some medical equipment and everything along those lines, and definitely still out there. He actually created a hashtag called "Got Shit to Do," and all along those lines, because definitely, well, he didn't create it, but his lady love created it. And
I love it. I love it.
Because he was saying he had to get out because he had things to do, and so she that whole hashtag, and we were joking about it and all along those lines. But I just wondering your thoughts, because a lot of times, we'll have an ache, we'll have a body ache or a neck ache, or any other kind of ache. And even to what you were talking about, a lot of times people in general are stubborn, and they'll just sit there and go like, it'll blow over. It's nothing. Even sometimes the emotional cues that we can get as well. And that's kind of what I was picking up from your conversation, with both physical cues as well as emotional and mental cues. But a lot of times we ignore those. I just wanted your take on that as I was hearing you speak on this particular aspect.
No, so we do really need to listen to all those cues. And I have a chart.
Mm-hmm.
I've taken many different healing courses, many different. I've only seen this chart in one place, but this chart has all of the organs, all of different body parts, and it tells you what the emotion is that's stuck there. So for instance, lungs is depression. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so whenever I get depressed, I know okay, I'm finding it hard to breathe. I'm like, okay, I know what to do. I go into my process and I take care of it. There are some books out there that, like one of the big ones, is Louise Hay's Heal My Body, I think it's called. And she has affirmations in there that help. I'll be real honest. Maybe I didn't do them right, but I didn't find the affirmations as helpful as the healing techniques that I have. But it does coincide with some of the stuff she says as far as what the different body parts mean. Does seem to be effective. Mm-hmm. So it helps to translate. And then I don't know, for me, affirmations just have never been.
Yeah, some people are big on it.
And some people love it. Some people do the affirmations and they love it, and it really works for them. But with so I can give you a couple things. So some major aches and pains. So here's a couple. This is really interesting. So the right side of your body is your masculine side. The left side of your body is your feminine side. We all have a masculine side and a feminine side. Ideally, they're balanced. But when they're out of balance, you're going to find aches and pains. So let's say you have, and then like your knees, your knees or your hips, I'm having trouble moving forward. Okay. So let's say it's just your left knee. So you want to look at your life and say, okay, are you too much in your masculine? And that's why the left knee, that feminine part of you, doesn't know how to move forward when you're 80, 90% in your masculine, and it's not getting the attention it needs. So then you want, okay, how can I balance out? How can I get more in touch with my feminine side and empower that so that they're working the same together? When we walk, it's one foot in front of the other. And so if our spirit is balanced, masculine and feminine, now it's not going to be like this all the time. You can't walk like this all the time, right?
Right.
So it's going to be steps. So I'll speak as a female because that's what I know. Mm-hmm. There are times as a business owner, I have to be in my masculine. Right. That's what gets business done. Mm-hmm. But then when I come in here today, I'm very much in my feminine. I'm being very vulnerable, So I'm not in here going, I'm in here being soft. I'm in here being very vulnerable with people. This wasn't actually what I was going to talk about today, but it's kind of evolved and it's okay. It's cool. So it's all good. Everything has a purpose. Everything has a reason. And this may go into what I was going to, this was just a start, and we may finish or not. We'll see.
Maybe pivot back into what you were going to talk about, because along those same kind of lines, and maybe that'll help you pivot. I was talking to a dear friend that is 77, and he was admiring my dad and mom, who are active in their early 80s, because he recently had a heart issue himself, and all along those lines. So he's remembering how he is adjusting in his older age and everything, because he was very active and would play tennis and a number of other things, and now he's having to face some things, including that evil A known as arthritis, and all along those lines. So he's trying to figure out how to adjust to his past active life, even though he's not as active as he once was because of some of those health concerns and all along those lines. So I was literally calling him today because I just felt a urge to call him, because I had called him about 2 or 3 weeks ago and hadn't heard from him again. So I was like, I should call my friend and see how he's doing in Virginia, because I'm in North Carolina and he's in Virginia. And he was saying, yeah, we got to get together, because he was part of a radio station that I was part of the founding of, and all along those lines. But he was definitely having a good conversation. It seems to be in a good spirit, but I do know that sometimes people are also concerned about some of the ways that they can adjust, because as we get older, we don't do what we used to do. Because I was telling somebody earlier, I think it was yesterday, I used to go walking at, and I think I mentioned on your show before, at a pond nearby, and I need to get back to walking that pond because it's fun seeing the geese and the other animals that are around, and it gives me a peace of mind.
Great. Walking is so good for us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, being out in nature, having that connection, and walking. So I've been learning about somatic exercises too, which is really interesting. And the goal of these somatic exercises is to help pull the stuck emotions in your body out. So for people, especially for people who, what I do is, weird or crazy or whatever, I get that. There's some people that will never ever trust the ethereal stuff, but go walking. There's other ways to get it out of your body, and you can do that. So the somatic exercise is one. I'll go through a couple of the ones that just kind of come to me off the top of my head and people have issues with. So one is, you talked about heart. So the heart is literally insecure. Now the color for the heart is green. So one way to strengthen his heart is to wear a lot of green. Now, if green is not a color he feels comfortable wearing, he can, maybe to the outside world, he can put on a green shirt and then put on whatever color shirt he's used to wearing outside. Finding a green rock, finding a green crystal, having something green in his world is going to, because what the heart does is the heart transmutes a lot of emotions. We say we get heart sick. Right. Well, the green actually helps you deal with change. He's going through a lot of change right now. So green is going to be really important to him. So the more he can surround himself in green, the more he can wear green, the more that's going to help him deal with those changes, but it's also going to help strengthen his heart. And so if he wants to really go deep, he needs to look at what does he really feel insecure about, and to let that go. The liver is another one. The liver is anger. And this is funny for all the ladies listening. So bladder infection, you're literally pissed off. Literally, you're pissed off. I've been so angry at something. My bladder is very sensitive and likes to yell at me when it likes to kind of keep me on keel. And I've had a few things happen that I got so angry at. And in the situation, there was nobody to yell at. I mean, I could yell, but I couldn't yell at anybody. And within the next 2 days, I'm like, I got a bladder infection. I'm like, damn it, I know better. So literally, ladies, if you have bladder infections, you're pissed off. So guys get them too, but not as much as we do. Figure out what you're pissed off at and fix it. This is another thing I didn't learn till way too late, but this is really cool. So if you've got kids in your world, you want them to know this. There's a book called The Red Moon. And men, this is going to help you too, dealing with your lady. So the Red Moon, how we deal with our periods. So we all been through PMS. Well, on one side or the other, you've had to deal with PMS, right? So what PMS is, the book explains it so beautifully. So it's not suddenly she's a bitch for 1 week.
Mm.
What it is for 3 weeks she kept her mouth shut about stuff and didn't complain about anything for 3 weeks. And then when it comes to that 1 week, she can't. Her her body's purging stuff. Her body's purging all that stuff she kept in and didn't make a noise. Didn't so let's say you didn't take the trash out for 3 weeks. She just, okay, well, I'll do it. But that 1 week, boy, she's mad you didn't take the trash out. Well, the truth is she's mad all month that you didn't take the trash out. That was just the 1 month that she didn't the 1 week she didn't hold her tongue. So there's two things going on here. And if your lady's complaining about something during PMS, take notes. You don't need to discuss it that week, but take notes and see if, well, I don't take the trash out all the time. Okay, is this a reasonable, like, look at the request for what it is without all the charge around it and say, is this reasonable? Okay, yes, I should take the trash out. Okay, cool. Take the trash out. Watch the PMS go down if that's what she's complaining about.
Right.
And for her to take note too, what am I complaining about? So then those other 3 weeks, instead of holding it tight, sit down with each other. So after, you take your notes, man, and then after she gets done, she gets past the period, then you can sit down and say, the last week or so, we've been talking about a lot of things. Can we just go over these? What can I do to help you? Like, is this really bugging you? And she needs to do the same thing. This is not this is a mutual conversation. Mm-hmm. But when she's not holding on to all that stuff, there's no PMS. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things in a relationship that is communication. My ex and I, we rarely fought. Mm-hmm. We rarely fought. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. And it was just that we just kind of just kept going. Yes, we did talk about a lot of stuff, but we just swallowed it.
Internalized it.
You got to talk about these things. So, and even after periods, there's still, we women get crazy and men do too. But instead of looking at those moments of, oh my God, she's just got hormones going like crazy, really, like, take some notes. What is the real complaint here? And then when she's not full of hormones, sit down and say, let's talk about this. Okay. So that's a big one. And I wish I had known that, but I learned it way too late. Your kidneys is irritated, agitated. And breast cancer. This is such a big one for me. So, and I always forget which one's which. So one breast is related to the stomach, indigestion. The other one is related to the liver, which is where we process anger. Yeah. One is unreliable, and the other one is unreliable. One is bad. Mm-hmm. I have to check. I think that's the right one. Okay. And the other word is escaping me. Oh, crap. Distressed. That's what it is. Distressed. So, and if you think about when we get really nervous and we're distressed, right? What do? We either eat or we don't eat, right? You get constipated. You get, things are hard to digest, right? So when things are hard to digest in life, somebody betrayed you, somebody lied to you, maybe there's something going on at work that you have no control over changing, but you have to deal with it. Mm-hmm. These things all distress our body. So when you can figure out which one of these things is hard to swallow, which one of these things is undigestible for you, then you can say, okay, is this something I can change? Maybe, you've got a sibling that's the favorite. Mm-hmm. That's undigestible for you. Okay, so now you have a choice. You can leave the family altogether. You can just accept that they're going to do their thing, and you create the relationship you have with your parent, and if that's acceptable, then okay, fine. But you have to come to terms with, where do I digest this? Where is my role in it? And how can I sometimes it may just be too toxic. You're like, you know what? See ya. I don't need this.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta escape.
Right? And so these are things to look at, is what, and this is partly where weight comes in, and all these things is, what am I not digesting? Yeah. There's too many emotions. Like I was talking about, I had all these emotions. It was too much. And the only thing I knew how to do, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. That's what you did, right? Okay, yes. I can handle this bite. I'll do this, and here's another bite. I'll do this, right? And you just keep taking a bite. But these emotions, that depth inside of us that comes from that silent scream that goes way deep, feels like it goes down to the center of the earth. It's so deep. But when you can release from that place at the center of the earth, there's so much freedom. So those are just some of the common things people deal with.
Yeah, that's very common. And just really quickly, as I was thinking about it, because it's something that you were saying when you were talking at the beginning of the show that I really resonate with, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about this, because you mentioned the fact that even though you were not feeling well, you found time to do things that you will enjoy. And I know that sometimes when people are sick, well, sometimes they can't go out, so they can't go to the movies, they can't go dancing, or things that I know that you sometimes enjoy doing. But I'm oftentimes admirable and admire those that are able to still find something enjoyable. Maybe it's reading a book or something, maybe even playing a word game or something like that when they are sick, and all along those lines. So just wondering, any advice you have for people that are in that space you were, because sometimes I know that you enjoy, because you've mentioned it before on the show and off the show about going dancing, but you probably couldn't go dancing, but maybe you were finding a way to dance in your own space, in your own house. Like you were talking earlier about yelling and singing out those heavy metal songs, and maybe you were finding a way to do that even while you were ill, and all along those ways. So is there ways that you can engage in your hobbies even if you are not feeling well, and is there ways that they can help in the healing process?
I always sing. I have my pre-show songs. I have my pre-client songs. I'll put the radio on in the morning when I wake up, and it's a big thing. So here's the thing. Okay, the best medicine in the world is free.
Right.
So we need like 12 hugs a day.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us adults don't get that.
Yeah.
Especially if you're living by yourself, you don't get that. We're supposed to laugh. I forget how many times it is, but we're supposed to have like deep belly laughs, like a little kid, 2-year-olds. They laugh at the littlest thing. A butterfly lands on a flower, and they do this belly laugh. Mm-hmm. But we're supposed to laugh like that, like let's say 20 times a day. I don't remember the exact number. You can look it up if you want. Yeah. But it's a lot more than we do, especially as adults. We have to be adults. We have to go to work. We have to make the money. We have to pay the bills. We have to be serious. We have to take care of everybody. No, the biggest thing is joy. There is a story, age-old story. This guy's relatively famous, I think. So, guy was an author. And he came down with some very severe cancer. Doctor said, go home. You've got like 2 months to live, whatever. And the guy was like, no, I'm not ready. I'm not doing that. Not happening. So what he did was, nobody was allowed in his house to say anything negative. They weren't allowed to talk about his illness. They weren't allowed to feel sorry for him. Nothing. He got all the funniest videos he could. That's all he did, was he watched things that made him laugh. 2 months later, doctors expect him to be dead. He's cancer-free.
Wow. So
the thing is, the best medicine in the world, and I'm guilty of this too, I don't do it every day, but is to find joy every day. Now, that can be simple. Well, I mean, I do find it in little ways. This morning, I went to go get my pants from the dryer. My little kitty was sitting curled up on top of some of my clothes. They don't go in the dryer, so I put them out. I had a blanket that was being air dried
Right.
and it covered the top of the dryer, and I had the hood up on the washing machine. Anyway, so there's my little baby kitty, and she's all curled up in the blanket, and it was the cutest thing. And I just went, my heart just went, oh my gosh, and it gave me a laugh, right?
Right.
But we need to create that every day. So that can be as simple as appreciating, like if you go for a walk every day and you see the ducks and the geese and whatever animals are there, it can be appreciating what's around you. You know,
Right.
you got up. You know, if you like to grow things, did the flowers bloom today? Is your garden growing? You know, if you have animals, animals are great for that. If you have kids, grandkids, you got any 2-year-olds in your life? Oh my gosh, that's like the fastest way to get joy because they just live joy. That's what we need to be more like, is that 2-year-old that just finds joy in everything. So whether it's drawing or listening to music or, you know, finding some, I have a bunch of records.
It's interesting you say that, Jeanette, because I have a dear friend of mine actually need to do a project for her because she needs a audio tape that I'm working on and all along those lines. But she is a mother and a grandmother at a relatively young age because I want to say that she had her kids and she had 4 of them, and then they've had multiple kids. So I want to say she's in her early 50s. Yeah, she's probably like 10 years younger than me, so she's like in her early 50s and all in that space. But her grandkids, when I do talk to her, are a lot of times what are giving her joy because some of those grandkids are, I'd say, between the ages of 0 and 1 to like up to yeah, because she just had one that was recently born. It was like last year or maybe the year before. So that child might be 1 or 2, but definitely they go up to like maybe the preteen years. But particularly the baby, a lot of times when she is talking, she's talking about her spending time with that child, even though it's her child's child, because she's the grandma and everything. But she just loves doting on that child and giving that child all the spoiling that she needs and everything. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that are in that space, whether they're grandparents or even caregivers for other people's children. Because I know I don't have any children, and I think you don't have any either. But sometimes you can dote on other people's kids, and it can give you that joy and all along those lines. Because I just know that every time that I talk to her, that's usually one of the first things she's saying is what her young grandchild has done that day and how cute as a button she is, and all along those lines.
But there's so much awe and wonder those first few years, you
Right.
know. At just a couple months, they're like, "Oh, I have fingers," and they'll just sit there and wow, you know. And they discover they have toes, and it's the same thing. And you know, they managed to do the sippy cup, and they're so proud of themselves.
Right.
And then when they're learning to walk, you know, and this is where parenting really starts. You know, they start to crawl, and they're so excited. And they're learning to walk, and they fall down, and you just kind of go, "Uh-oh," and then they'll laugh and
Right.
they'll get up again and they'll try it again. And then when they make that first couple of steps, and when they start talking, it's like, oh, you understand me? Yes, yes. And they get so excited.
Mhm.
And I mean, a lot of people don't like the terrible twos. I mean, they call them the terrible twos. I think the terrible twos are amazing because they're full of so much wonder. And, you know, I mean, my mom, we always had kids in the house. I did a lot to raise my niece and nephew. And, you know, 2 years old, they come over here. They never broke nothing. I taught them. I have a lot of teapots. I have a lot of figurines in the house. And so they'd like, Jeanette, tell me about this or show me. So I'd either pick them up or I'd bring it down to their level. And I said, this is very breakable, da da da. And I'd show them if it's a teapot, this does this, you know, and they never broke anything. My niece, when we loved doing little tea parties and stuff. So I went out to one of these little thrift gift stores, and they had it was like a little kid's
Mhm.
teapots. It was China. It was breakable. And they were like little tulips. And the cups were only this big.
Wow.
And you know, it cost me $20. But I said, here, this is yours. And I
Mhm.
didn't care if she broke it. I wanted her, I mean, if she broke it, it was a lesson of this is how easy it is to break.
Right.
And that's part of what we need to do as parents is teach, help them to learn. We show them, we guide them. but that 2-year-old wonder, and they just have so much. I have I have a picture somewhere. I love this picture. So I have a pond in the backyard, and all of the kids have been baptized in it one way or another. So I had my nephew over. He was the first one. He's the oldest, and he fell in the pond. Okay, cool. And I was right next to him, and he wasn't in there for it. Scared him more than anything. He was in no way near danger, but I had his hand, and okay, he just went a little bit too far over. Okay, no problem. So I got him all cleaned up, and I didn't have any extra clothes for him because I wasn't supposed to have him for the whole day. So I got one of my turtlenecks and I put him on it, and it covered him from neck to toe. And he was like a little Yoda or something. And it's just the cutest picture. But anyway, no, there's something about, and each age has its magic. Each
Right.
age, there's a new discovery. And it's like they get to a point where you're like, I can't lift them up anymore. And there's some sadness there. But look at all the things you can do with them now. And so the more you embrace what each age has to offer, that, and enjoy what can be done at that age, then you get to also become their friends as they get older.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Along those same lines, and I know I think mentioned it on a couple of shows with some of your past guests, and you kind of alluded to it. Um, how much do you get frustrated? Because it seems to me that as we get older and we get into that adulting, we forget that childlike wonder, and we don't want to do childlike things because we don't want to be seen as being silly and everything. Like you said, you go sing to in the shower or sing to yourself, and I definitely have hummed to myself, and I've even done some other things that people might think of as silly. I mean, if I go to a pond and find a rock, I might decide I want to skip the rock if I can
I think
remember
that's
how to
great.
skip it and all along those lines. But I'm just wondering, how much do you think that we as humans, and particularly adult humans, try to forget that notion of childlike wonder? Because I know I don't have one now, but when I had a cat, and I know you've got cats, that's part of what I observe about, love about not just cats but dogs, is that they seem to enjoy having fun and enjoy the fun of life, whether they are the puppy or the kid version, the puppy or the kitten version, or whether they are the full adult version. Now, the full adult version might like to get a bigger nap than the kids, but it still likes to go out for a chase and have some fun as well. So that's something that I think animals do a better job than we as humans do. But I was just
Oh,
your
yeah.
take on that.
So I think it's what's in your heart.
Mhm.
So for instance, my youngest sister is 11 years younger than me, and she doesn't watch TV. She becomes part of it. She'll watch the same show. I say a million. You think I'm kidding? I don't think I'm kidding. And she'll get to the point where she can mouth all the words to it. She had one day. I was only there for one day. It might have been a weekend. I don't know. It could have been going on all week. She watched Grease, and then she watched Grease 2, and then she watched Grease, and then she watched Grease 2, and then she watched Grease, and then she all day. That's a lot of Grease. That's a lot of Grease. And she knew all the words. And she would watch cartoons like that. And so I got to a certain age and I was like, I'm an adult. I don't watch
She do what?
cartoons. I'm an adult. I don't watch cartoons. And it was because she would just constantly do that. And I'm like, no, I don't watch cartoons. And so there's a lot of Disney movies I have not seen. I don't watch cartoons. And then occasionally I'll have a friend that says, oh, I want to go see this Disney movie. I'm like, okay, I'll go be a kid with you for a couple hours. Now, here's the thing. So in my design work, and it goes beyond design, but one of the things I do is there's 4 personality types. So one of those, their job on the planet is to bring forth that kid-like joy. So they're the people that have, the adults that, they're wearing heart necklaces, like the sparkly heart necklaces. They've got glitter on their folders. They may have glitter on their nails. They do act silly. That is their role on the planet. They will make people laugh everywhere they go. And that is literally their role. Now, I have a little bit of that in me. Helps with doing stuff like the podcast. But that's not who I am. But there are those people that they'll wear the funky shaped glasses and the funny hats. And, nowadays, every time you go to an event, there's like, oh, there's like the selfie bar. Is that what they call them? Anyway, you go in and they have like hats and glasses and props and you play with them and you get dressed up and you play. And so it's really important to get in touch with your inner child, whatever that may be. For some people, that may be, hey, let's go be really silly. And it's still good to go do that. That's why it's fun to have kids around, because you get to go be with a kid and you have an excuse, right? Oh, I'm playing with a kid. So it's good to have kids around you. That's why we have grandkids and friends with kids, because it keeps us in touch with that inner child. But if you don't have any in your world, or when they're not around and you want to do something that fortifies your inner child, you do something to play. Go do the rock skipping. Who cares? It's fun. For me, I do love music. So I'll be singing, I'll be walking around the house, I'll put music on, I'll sing, I'll do a little dancing to it. Maybe, I'll be doing something and the song will come in my head. Or I have one particular friend and we'll be talking and all of a sudden I start singing, kind of like we did the beginning of this, it's like, oh yeah, this reminds me of that song. And I'll start singing a little bit. And, he'll tease me, go, oh, Jeanette, you don't sing on tune. I'm like, I don't care. I'm singing for me. If I really care, I can sing along with the music and I can be okay. I'm never going to sing solo and perform. That's fine. I'm not doing it for that. The Bible verses make a joyful noise. I do that quite well. So it's really about, if you like to draw. One of my friends does play therapy. And one of the things that she has people do is you fill in these little dots. She has these dot pens and you just go, and it's kind of like coloring, but with dots. And she has different techniques she uses with it, but it's really kind of fun. And so maybe it's playing an instrument for you. Maybe that gets you in touch with it. Maybe some people like to knit or crochet. But there's the art of creation. Really, that's what children do. They create. Every moment, they are in awe of what new is unfolding around them. And as adults, we don't do that. We just like, well, yeah, there's something going to come up tomorrow. Yeah, I got to go to work again tomorrow. I got to pick the kids up from school again tomorrow. I have this routine that I just have to keep getting through until the weekend. And then, well, let's face it, there's a whole nother list of chores you got to do on the weekend. And so when life just becomes a to-do list, it's not fun. And that's when we start to die, is when we're just doing that to-do list. So it's okay. You got to have your to-do list, but you got to have your to-fun list too. And maybe it's taking the kid out and, go for a bike ride or play ball, or, maybe it involves a kid. Maybe it's just, what did you enjoy doing as a kid? I had a dear friend. He loved bikes. I tell you, having the friendship with him really enlightened my world by his incredible love of bikes. He discovered bikes when he was like 8, 10 years old. He got his first two-wheel bike. And the way he describes the first time that he went for a real bike ride, and he was like, it's like he said, I'm flying. He felt free in a way that he didn't feel anywhere else in his world. That bike gave him freedom. And he spent a lot of time doing bike marathons, and he did what's it called, tandem bike riding, and it really was a huge part of his life. And that was the way he connected with that 8-year-old inside that needed to have a voice, that needed to feel free, that needed to fly. So what did you do when you were a kid that you really loved? It doesn't have to be playing with dolls. Could be. My grandmother, she always loved her grandkids. She loved her grandkids so much. She loved babies. She had 9 of them, so she loved babies. And towards the end, she wanted to, she didn't have any little grandkids anymore. And, everybody grown up and kind of in between ages. She got a doll. She's 80 odd years old. Okay. She sat there with a doll in her lap. Good for Grandma. Some people thought she was crazy. I didn't think so. Grandma needs a doll, That's like after, a divorce or death and you're used to sharing your bed with somebody. How many people grab a pillow? And that pillow is what they hold on to at night instead of the other person. So my grandma had a doll. Cool. Good for her for filling that void. She needed that. So you need to find out what makes you feel that awe, that wonder. What makes you feel free? Maybe it's just doodling. I doodle a lot. I do. I don't even know why. I'll sit there and I'm like, okay, doodle, doodle, doodle. Cool. There's all kinds of art things you can do to find your way of expressing that awe, that wonder, that creation, that joy. So that's your homework. It's every day. And, I talked about my cat, it's like, oh, she's so funny. She's so cute. I had to take a picture of her. I can't show it to you right now, but anyway, I was just like, it just warmed my heart. So every day, at least one thing, at least 10 minutes, you are worth it. To get in touch with that inner child, to feel joy, do something that's joyful for you. Because if you give to everybody else, there's nothing left for you. I saw this thing today. I posted it on my Facebook, actually. It's public, so if you want to go find it, you can see it. But it was this little cartoon, and it was talking about relationships. And so it was this, he's interested in her, so he's like throwing gifts at her, and she's kind of like, He keeps throwing. So she goes, oh, okay. She brings him in. And there's this, like, the energy is going like this. And they're both growing big, right? Well, then he kind of pulls away a little bit. And she's like, what'd I do wrong? What'd I do wrong? So she starts giving him more. Well, okay. So he's like, cool. He's happy. His needs are being met. And he doesn't have to do as much. Okay. So then he pulls back a little bit more. She's like, oh, what's wrong? I got to give him more. So she gives him more. So what happens is he gets really big. She gets really small. And he gives her a couple drops of love. And she's throwing. And this is what happens in a lot of relationships. And so then you have one person who's really, and it's not even conscious. I mean, not even be conscious. It's not like this person's mean. Blah, blah, blah. It's unconscious. This person may not even know they're making themselves small in order to do that. Ideally, what you want in a relationship is that it's this. The energy is bouncing between each other, and neither one of you are making the other person small. You're both making the other person bigger. That's what we want. So in order to do that, you have to feel worthy. You have to feel special. You have to know that what you have to offer is really amazing. And you have to have your inner child needs met. And then when they start pulling away, you're just like, okay, fine, whatever. I'm going to go over here and do my thing. You don't want me? Fine. I don't need you. I'm not going to beg for your attention.
Yeah. I was thinking about your friend that drives the bicycles, because I remember when I lived in rural North Carolina, there was a gentleman that had a hardware store, and he actually literally rode his bicycle. He was probably in his at that time, 50s or 60s, but he would ride the bicycle all over the country. I think he even took some bicycle trips from North Carolina down to Florida and even other parts of the nation. And I don't know that he's alive even now, because definitely that was several decades ago and all along those lines. But I greatly admired him, one, for having that business, that hardware store, but also just that love of bicycling. I don't know whether your friend did some of those long distance bikes and everything, but it's real interesting if you've got that bike and you can make those trips, because Mr. Lanier was his name. And I just remember that was in the 70s, maybe the early 80s, and he would literally go on these extensive trips, because I know he definitely traveled throughout North Carolina, and I definitely remember him going, I won't say as far as Florida, it might even been some places that were more to the west. Don't think he ever tried to take a trek all the way to California. That would be a long trek, but he definitely did do some multiple state bicycling trips.
I know he did do some California, like the length of California, which would be multiple states on your side of the country. So I know he did a bike ride from like San Francisco to LA, maybe more. And so he did do several marathons. And what was really interesting too, so this was something I never thought about. And this is why it's really good to talk, figure out other people's passions and see it through their eyes. So he was showing me the art of bicycles. So to me, a bike is a bike. Like, it's just a bike, right? But he was showing me all the different parts and where they put art into it. And I was really amazed. And by the time he finished showing me this, I have a new appreciation for bicycles that I never had before. And the artisticness into how they're created and where they're able to create in them. So it's really amazing. And that's why, instead of like, oh, well, I don't ride bikes. Okay, well, it's not a passion for me, but I grew so much by hearing about his passion, experiencing his passion through the hit. And we did a couple tandem bike rides, and it was so much fun. I would do it again in a hot second. But I was very lucky. He was very experienced, and like, I didn't know what I was doing. I just followed him. I can do that. That's the feminine in me going, okay, I can follow. I'll follow your lead. Awesome. This is great. But to be able to be willing to see somebody else's passion, I hope one of the things that I do with this podcast is to illustrate my passion for interior design, my passion for healing, my passion for life, and say, hey, look, here's another way of looking at the world that you didn't see. Most people don't know how much color affects them. Most people don't know, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about on this podcast. They're just kind of like, so I hope to have opened some people's eyes, see passion for different things in different ways that really can change your life.
Yeah. And you definitely do a great job of that. There's other shows here that do that as well and everything. But yeah, you do a good job of letting people see your passion both for interior design and just life in general, because definitely you have a joy for life that a lot of people oftentimes don't have, unfortunately, because a lot of people are still a little bit stuck in that sadness mode and everything. But you have a joy of life. That is one of the things that I've observed as your producer and now friend as well. So you definitely have a joy in life that resonates and actually puts a smile on many people's faces, including mine as well.
That means a lot, because I'll be honest, not every day I come in here I have joy, but this does bring me a lot of joy, and it's getting in touch with that joy. Some days it's harder than others, but that's really the best medicine that we can give ourselves. All those pills, all the exercise. I mean, I'm not saying not to exercise, but if we can all experience in just 15 minutes of joy every day, real joy every day, we're going to heal on so many levels. It's not funny. So many of us don't do it. I don't even do it every day. I know better, but there's the to-do list. I was with a client. Okay. Like client and then client. I last Thursday, I was with a client from 9 a.m. to 7 o'clock. I got home. I'm done. I just want to go to bed. You know, I'm like, I just want to curl up with a good movie and that's it. I'm done. You know, but on those days, especially, is when we need to find joy.
Yeah.
And so that's all your guys' homework is 15 minutes of joy every day. I guarantee you it will change your world.
Yeah. And speaking of that 15 minutes of joy, I know that one thing that gives you joy, it gives me joy. And I was actually just telling her that I need to get some new order. And all along those lines is those Kendu spices. So I figured we close out with those Kendu spices because I know it gave you some joy. It's definitely given me some joy as well. And I actually had that show that she does with Barbara yesterday. And I told her, I'm out of my Kendu spices. So I've got to go in there and order some more. And I'm sure that Jeanette has ordered some, and some of her friends are also probably going to be making some orders as well. So I think we go out with some joy of some Kendu spices.
Thank you.
No problem. Definitely, but a great show, and I know that you're getting better and a great job. So I appreciated you coming on and doing another spectacular job today. So right now we'll go out with some Kendu spices.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Kendu Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Kendu Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Kendu Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Kendu Spice a try.